My name is Paula. If you want to go to the next slide, Bill. Bill's he's driving today. Thank you. And go to the next slide. We are going to take probably 40, 45 minutes, maybe a bit longer, depending on Q&A today. And we're going to talk about communications equity. We're going to give you a live tour of our technology platform and how we address it and a lot of the amazing things that you can do. This is a bit of the structure. We're going to have, Bill's going to give a bit of background on what we really mean by these things. And then we're going to get into actual actionable, practical, tactical things. Our goal today is to give you inspiration, ideas, whether you are a customer or not, show you what our platform is, but hopefully you're going to walk away with something valuable, a new idea, a new aspect, hopefully. That's our goal. All right, and Bill, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to mute myself and let's get cracking.
Great,
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Paula. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, well, you're muted, so you won't be able to tell me if you can or not, but feel free to share in the chat. Thanks so much for that intro, Paula. Really excited to show you the ParentSquare product today, but more importantly, talk about things that we've seen and some tips and tricks on how we can help districts close the equity gap. It's a little bit about my background. I won't dive too much into it, but it's something I've been very passionate about for the better part of 20 years here. I started in ed tech in 2004 with a startup company, and it was by accident. I didn't know that that's where my life was going to take me, but I was a jazz musician and I needed extra money. So my college roommate started a company called Teleparent. And some of you on the webinar today may have used that product back in the early 2000s. And one of the things at Teleparent that really stuck out to me is we were very different than the other school communication systems at the time. Back then, there were a lot of all-call mass notification systems like Blackboard Connect or School Messenger, which many of your districts may still be using today. Teleparent was the first one that actually built messages in multiple different languages. And back then, the technology didn't allow us to use machine translation. It just wasn't good enough yet. So we actually recorded with live translators a bank of messages that teachers could select. And that was the other thing that really made us different, is that we focused in on the teacher experience and being able to start a conversation between teachers and parents. So I got very, very passionate about that because I saw it work. The mass messages were great for getting people to back to school nights and things. But if you really wanted to bring families into the school and make them feel like they're a part of their child's education, you had to start a conversation, and it had to be in that parent's home language. And so that was the goal with Teleparent many, many years ago. And we were bought by Blackboard. And then, I've been, 20 years in these communication tools. And one of the things I'm excited to show you today is that in ParentSquare, I really believe it's the next generation. It uses today's technology to achieve what I started my career 20 years ago doing, which is trying to close that equity gap and bring all people into the conversation. So I hope that that's what you see today. We're really excited to show you the product. I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the next slide here. And one of the first things that I always talk to districts about is, what can ParentSquare do for me? And obviously, as we go through this demo, you're gonna see that there's a lot under the hood. It's a very robust product. But if I were to boil it down to the two most important things that we do for districts, it's one, clean up the noise. And what I mean by that is, instead of all these different tools, we have a single point of communication. The parents start knowing it is, that's my way to communicate with the school. So we're gonna help you consolidate all these different tools. The other thing that we're going to do for districts is help to modernize their approach to communication. The reality is most districts are still using all-call systems from the 1990s, and your parents are very different now than they were in the 1990s. You've got your first generation of millennial parents, and even Gen Z parents are now making their ways into schools. So one of the things that happens, if you don't keep up with the communication trends and you don't communicate in the way that they communicate in their daily lives now, you're going to suffer the fate of Blockbuster. And so I always say we help districts feel much more like Netflix than Blockbuster, because we're going to help your communication keep with the current times and feel relevant and to your parents now. So that's at a high level what we can do. As we dig a little deeper, the challenge that we saw with school districts over the last few years is that, by no fault of their own, they've kind of collected what we call the variety pack of communication tools. And that's because before ParentSquare, there wasn't really that tool that stood out that met the needs of all stakeholders. So you had, at your school and district admin level, you might be using an all-call system system like Blackboard Connect or School Messenger, your teachers desperately need to communicate too. And certainly a two-way conversation is important to them. So they're finding tools like Remind and Dojo, and they're downloading third-party apps on their own. You also have another set of users that need to send out nice branded content. So all the principals newsletters look similar and things like that. So you might be adopting tools like Constant Contact and MailChimp and PeachJar. And then there's yet a whole nother use case where we're actually trying to gather information and collect information digitally from parents. And you might be using tools like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or Calendly or Signup Genius. So while it's great that the districts are in their best efforts trying to communicate home to the families, we often lose sight of what that feels like as a parent. And many of you might be parents in districts yourselves and experience this, and that is the parent challenge. It's a folder full of applications on my phone, and I don't quite know as a parent, especially if I'm busy and I'm not truly, really hyper engaged, I'm gonna have trouble communicating with the school district because I've got all these different tools, my head's spinning, and what happens is actually the adverse effect. Parents check out when there's too many communication tools. So that's the opportunity here with ParentSquare, is to bring everything into a simple, easy to use tool that everybody identifies and recognizes as a school communication hub. So whether it's the superintendent sending a message to the whole district, whether it's a principal at a school sending an update about the school, or maybe an ELL coordinator at the school targeting just the ELL parents, or maybe it's a teacher sending an update about class, everything is going to be in one simple, safe, unified tool. And that's what ParentSquare offers to districts. Digging a little deeper, one of the things that we've done very well as a company, I believe, is captured the parent lens. And that's because we were built by two parents. They were software developers, and their kids hit school age. They were working outside of education technology in other technology fields, and they were software programmers. And when their kids got to school age, they realized that parent problem, multiple different apps, it was tough to communicate, and they thought it was crazy. And they said, well, we could fix this. So instead of, cooking something for the bake sale, they built an app for the school, which I thought was pretty cool. And it went so well because they got the feedback, they knew that parent perspective, and then they listened to their school about what would help if you had, or, what if we did this in it? And there was collaboration there in those days. And it really led to a very powerful product where all users are accounted for, especially that parent group. So one of the things that you'll see here is our approach to engagement is bringing all these different communication tools in one place. So we're going to offer mass communication, just like your older auto dials. If you need to get an emergency alert out, we can certainly do that, as well as any of the auto notices that you're used to as a district. So, attendance dialing, lunch balance calling, those things are all going to be, we check that box, certainly. We also bridge the gap between those older tools and newer tools like Remind and Dojo by offering a really powerful classroom communication experience. We're going to let you post to your classroom and collect information from your parents, but also more importantly, that two-way dialogue. We're going to give you the opportunity to have a conversation with parents there. And then the third bucket is, I think, one that makes ParentSquare most unique, and that's what we call school services. This is basically, I liken it to digitally emptying out the backpack. So for years, we used to send home permission slips and residency verification forms and all these things that we needed parents to fill out in their child's backpack, or we mailed them home, and we know how costly that can be. So we've digitized that process. And unlike the other tools where you're having to link to them, like a Google form or SurveyMonkey or Calendly, all of these are built into our tools. So it's done in the same place that you're doing your mass communication, the same place you're doing your classroom communication, and that experience is just built in digitally. So we'll be able to do things like collect permission slip signatures, send home report cards digitally, input form inputs and things like that, all in one place. So one unified platform, everybody recognizes it as the communication to the school. So now we're going to dive into how this relates to equity in communications. And again, this is such a complex, challenge at schools. And certainly, I don't claim to have all the answers. I'd love to hear in the chat section as we're going through this presentation tips and tricks, because you as districts know much more than I do as far as what you're doing to try to close those equity gaps in communications. I do want to offer some quotes that I thought were really good in equity. And this first one came from a professor professor, and inclusion is not bringing people into what already exists. It's making a new space, a better space for everybody. And I truly believe ParentSquare offers districts an opportunity to do that. We're building from the ground up. We're not adopting tools that worked for parents in the 1990s because things are very different now. And so being able to build with a modern tool and kind of come up with that equity plan for your parents in a new environment is something that I think is very powerful for districts. This was another one that I thought was great. There's no right or wrong time to stand for human rights. You just simply must stand and encourage others to stand with you. When we value every learner's identity, experience, and knowledge, we can leverage these to ensure equitable outcomes for all students. So that's one of the things, certainly every district's at a different place with how they're doing at, equity in communications. And we encourage you to just accept where you are as a district right now and then work together to do that. And then this one I loved, do the best that you can until you know better. And then when you do know better, do better, by Maya Angelou. And I thought that was so appropriate here is that, we're all doing the best that we can right now. But I think through, coming to webinars like this, researching, doing your own study on this, that we can all get better at this and include more families in your communication. And then finally, this is a quote from our founder and president, Anu. She is so passionate about, helping districts close that equity gap. And so she says, when it comes to equity, we must be able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to think outside of our own experiences and see the world with different eyes and get consistent feedback. So I think today's webinar is a great opportunity to do that. Every one of you has your own unique experience with this in your school district. So please do share tips and tricks in the chat section, and we'll certainly go over those in the question and answer. But I kind of wanted to set the stage of, just some great quotes that I thought that really encapsulate what we're trying to do here. Now, in practicality, how do we make that happen? So one of the things that we're going to do for school districts is let you know who is being communicated with. I think that's the biggest challenge. To me, this is the foundation. If you're building on top of this and you don't have this knowledge, then you're building a house on sand. And so one of the things that we have is very powerful reports on contactability. Now, I've seen this firsthand in implementing school districts where this had a profound effect on how they actually reach their families. Because the reality is if you're sending home great messages and translated and everything's awesome, but you're only reaching 40% of your families, and you're missing a lot of the families that maybe are, tech averse or not used to using email and things like that, then you're going to be losing a large part of your communications equity there. So we're going to give you reports that will show you contactability, what families are not being contacted, what languages are represented in your data. So it's a snapshot of your data and how you're doing. A personal anecdote, I worked with Oakland Unified School District. They in California here, they recently rolled this out. They're a large urban district, 40,000 students, and families from all kinds of different socioeconomic backgrounds. So they've got a big challenge in just a wide spectrum of parents that they're trying to communicate to. And when they first updated their data, they were in the 40% range of contactability. Well, that means less than 1 out of every 2 parents is actually getting these messages. And so they were able to see that, and there's a tab here called non-contactable. And because they clicked on that, they could see exactly which families where the data issues were. And they're now over 45%, not 45, that wouldn't be that impressive, 95% contactability in their district. So they more than doubled their contactability in just a few short months using our data, there. And so that's really important. That to me is the foundation to make sure first and foremost, all of your families are being reached in the languages that are represented in your school district. So another thing that we do, and this is one of my favorite features in the tool, is two-way communication translated. So we call it direct messaging, just like Instagram or Twitter would. It's that two-way message, a chat between, in this example, a teacher and a parent. Well, it's not always English to English, and a lot of tools do a really good job of English to English communication out there, but that's missing the mark. So in this example, we have a teacher who types a quick direct message to a parent. It's in English here because they speak English, and I love this. This example is a positive message. These messages home don't only have to be punitive and correction. So one of the things here, we got a positive message home. Well, that parent automatically receives that message based on the language code they have in their student information system. And it comes to them as a text message, email, and/or app notification. So we reach them in every modality, and that's also important to equity. Some parents gravitate towards emails, others do not. The text message is the best way to get them. Other parents love mobile apps. So we want to make sure we're meeting the parents where they are. And in this case, the message comes in Spanish. That parent types back in Spanish and hits send. And it goes back to the teacher in English, live and in real time, just as if they're chatting back and forth. They don't have to ask for it in Spanish. It already knows that they speak Spanish. So it just goes back and forth in 2 different languages. So it's truly having a 2-way communication in 2 different languages in real time. And we do support over 100 different languages for that. So that's been a very, very powerful tool. Now, one of the other important things here is that all of these chat logs have archived oversight of them. So if I'm a principal and a parent sitting in my office, I can pull up that chat log and see all of the messages in one place. I'm not having to go ask the teacher to see their cell phone. I'm not having to ask the parent to prove that the communication said that. It's all at my fingertips as an administrator. And that's one of the things that you lose as districts if you use tools like Remind and Dojo, if you don't pay for their full version where you get that oversight. Many districts are just using free versions. And in those cases, you're actually not getting that oversight. So you have no idea what communication is going on between your families. In this case, you can see it all in one place. Another thing that I did want to touch on is, and I started talking about this in the last slide, is we've got to reach parents where they are. That's one of the most important things as far as closing the equity gap, is that not every parent communicates the same. Some parents are going to love email, but what we have found, especially in parents who may not speak English, or they may be a little more technology adverse, they are going to be much more receptive to text messaging, and they're going to be much more likely to get that. So one of the things that we do as a company, and you'll see this down here, is opt-out versus opt-in, built with inclusion in mind. Many of the other providers, and everyone that I've worked for, I've been 20 years now in school district communications, they have an opt-in method. And what that means is, if I'm a parent, I want to get text messages for updates from the classroom or the school, I've got to opt in to get those. And then I'll start getting those text messages. Well, if a parent is already kind of nervous around technology, or it's not comfortable to them, trying to get them to opt in is going to be a challenge. And in those cases, we see very low adoption rates, maybe 10%. And quite honestly, not to disparage the other companies, but the reality is there's a cost savings there when you're not texting most of the community. And so they can offer a lot lower prices for those kind of things. Well, in our tool, one of the things that we do, because we believe in inclusion and we want all parents being reached, is that we automatically opt you in, and you have to opt out. Now, that's all totally legal within the TCPA. When a parent gives you their contact information, they can opt in as long as you give them an opt out. So it does follow all those guidelines that you need to adhere to as a district. But most importantly, it's going to give all of your families the opportunity to receive text messages in the beginning, and then they can opt out if they need, as well as download our mobile app, which a lot of parents really enjoy as well. So finally, before we dive into the live demo today, I'm just going to kind of talk to you about what this live tour is going to look like. First, we're just going to go kind of a navigation overview, get you comfortable with what ParentSquare looks like and where parents could find the information. Then we're going to dive into contactability reports, and we're going to look at those reports that I talked about that'll show you exactly what families you are reaching in your district, and that's so important to be able to track. Then I'll go into translation as it pertains to each of these different areas. So post, direct message, and our forms and permission slips. So we're going to talk about how those can be auto-translated and how you can override the translation on some of these as well. Then after that, we'll talk about reporting. How do I, if I'm a teacher and I sent out a message to my classroom, how do I find out who's seen it and how they saw it? Did they, view the email? Did they see it in the app? And, and that kind of reporting, because that's going to be important too. And then I'm going to leave you at the end with some tips and tricks. These I found through the years. This first feature was something the Anaheim Faces coordinators, a great group in Anaheim Union High School District, talked about, where they actually print their posts out. And I'll show you how to do that very easily in the tool. And then finally, we built a tool for Oakland when they were doing phone outreach to parents to get responses for their intent to return forms. And many of the parents, they ended up having to call. Well, they could submit on behalf of a parent for that, because we know the parents aren't always comfortable submitting this information themselves. So we'll talk about how that works in our tool as well. All right, so let me jump over to our actual live demo now. And now I'm in ParentSquare, and I am in ParentSquare. You'll see up here on the top right as Principal Lincoln, a principal at Lincoln Elementary School, but I also have some students in the school. So one of the cool things about this is, again, ease of use is going to always help with your equity gap. And so one of the things that we do is you can consolidate accounts into a single account. So if you are a staff member and a parent, you can have all of that experience in one place. It makes it just really easy. All of your students are listed here. And one of the things you'll notice right as I get into this tool, by design, we've built this to look like a simple, clean social media interface. And the reason for that is your millennial and Gen Z parents are every day in tools like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and they're comfortable with those tools. Well, we wanted to build that experience, but with education in mind and not this open network that anybody can communicate in. So that's what you're going to see here. Now, as we scroll down, you'll notice that we have a feed, just like we would in any modern communication tool. And that feed is going to be a collection, not of all information from every school in the district, because that's not going to be useful. It's going to be targeted to me as a user. So if the superintendent sent a message to the whole district, well, I'm a part of that group, so that would be on my feed. If my high school students' principal sent an update about back to school night, that would be on my feed as well, because that's going to be there. But also maybe I have a student in elementary school and their teacher sent an update about class assignment. That would be on my feed as well. So my feed is custom tailored to what I want. Now, I can also come in and filter that down. So let's say I just want to see the, we get a lot of ones here, just the messages from the ELL group. Then I can click that and it will filter that down. So all of my information is very easily filtered down as well. All right, so that's the general navigation. You'll see here that we have posts, direct messages, and alerts. Those are more like those auto dials that you have with School Messenger and Blackboard Connect. We do that as well. But that's kind of the navigation over here. And then I've got my calendar with any upcoming events, any payments that I offer, because we do take payments as well. And then any signups and RSVPs. Maybe I have something I need to sign up for, or there's an event that I'm supposed to RSVP for. I've got my quick list here. So everything's very easy for the parents to find. Now, if I'm an administrator at either the district level or at one of the schools, I'll have this admin tab. And when I click on that, you'll see it brings me to what we call an engagement dashboard. I actually like looking at it through the dashboard history, because it gives me a little more data there. So one of the first things you're going to see is this contactability report. And I offer to districts that this is one of the most, again, this is the foundation for equity in communications. It's making sure that you're communicating with all of your families and that we have the proper data for them. So this is constantly pinged. It's not a snapshot like, oh, when I first updated the school in the beginning of the year, this is what my data looked like. Every time you're sending out messages, we're pinging in. And if let's say a parent had a prepaid phone and those minutes went out and that phone's no longer working, then they'll be moved to non-contactable here. So you're going to know right away as families go in and out of contactability. We also have what languages are represented in the data here. So one of the things I can do is I can click on this tab for non-contactable. And this is going to give me an actionable list that I can go in and start cleaning up if I want to get to 100%. And I think, one of the things that we've seen that's pretty cool is districts and schools having contests, between the different schools in the district of who can get their contactability up to 100% quicker. And then they do, a pizza party for that school or whatever whatever that may be. So this is a great way to look at the data and know exactly what's going on. But I also have other snapshot data. I kind of think of this screen as if I was a business owner and I was using tools like Instagram and Facebook to, to advertise. I would want to know what my reach is. I'd want to know if I'm, actually engaging with people. I'd want to know what messages they're most liking and those kind of things. Well, you as a principal want to know this as well. So you'll see if I scroll down here, we're going to see, our contactability over time. We're going to see our reach and deliverability. What do our families have turned on? More text messages or more emails and so on. Underneath that, we'll see those trends over time. This one's great. We can see what features are being used. So if I'm a principal, I come in here and I look and I go, oh, wow, we're sending a lot of direct messages. That means we're having a lot of conversations. That's great. That's that two-way, communication piece that's so important. And, those features over time. We also have this one. This is one of my favorite data points is our interaction with our posts. This will tell us how we're actually doing it, communicating and engaging with our families. How many comments do we have on our posts? How many likes or what we call appreciations? How many forms have been filled out? And then down here, what are our most popular posts by appreciation or most commented posts? So this is going to be a great opportunity for a principal to come in and say, wow, 4 of my top 5 messages are about this. That's really resonating with families. So, and again, that's going to help you know your communities better and include more people. And then finally, down here at the bottom, we can see, you know, post distribution by grade level and who my most popular you know, authors are. Is this teacher really shining? Oh, great. We'll talk to them and see what their experience is like. So that's the data that's behind the system to kind of let you know how you're doing and engaging. Now we'll go and we'll send a post. So you'll see our posts. Those are going to be our most you know, commonly used and popular message types. And the posts are great. As I scroll down here, you can put pictures in them. You can put videos. You'll see I can even do things like put dates and times, or, you know, go in and RSVP for a time. I might even sign up for a wish list here. Oh, you know, they're asking parents for packs of pencils. Well, I can come. I've got a couple packs of pencils laying there. I can bring those into the school and donate. So we've got that. We've got our RSVPs and that type of stuff. So the posts are very interactive. They're not like the old auto dials that just sent home a one-way message. Hey, back to school night's coming up. We hope to see you there. You know, here's the information below. And it's a one-way kind of stagnant post. This is going to be interactive, and I'm going to be able to do things like sign permission slips in these posts, sign up to be a volunteer at the school, all those things, you know, in one place. So that's, as you can see, that it's kind of that next generation of school communication here. Now, to create a post couldn't be easier. I just come up here. If I've ever created a post on any of the social media site, I'm going to expect a button there to do that. And you'll see it's very easy. I can come in, select, you know, what grade level I want to send to, or if I'm a teacher, I'll only see my classes here. So I can select a class, what roles in that group do I want to send to, and then what do I want that to be about? Maybe the field trip to the San Diego Zoo, and I can start building this content. Now, one of the things that I really love in the site is we have this new concept of design blocks, because I myself am a horrible designer. I can't do that. But if I come in here and put a header there, maybe need a logo, you know, right there under it, and then maybe we need an image column with 3 different images, I can now just start replacing this content. This gives us the opportunity to make really multimedia rich and engaging content, but also to have consistent content across the district. So if I'm a principal at one school, we can save this as a newsletter, and they can pull that up at any time and use that as their newsletter here. So very, very powerful in engaging families and making this more relevant to their days, you know, in the way that they want to see communication. Then afterwards, I have these post add-ons here. I can do things like add a calendar invite. I can do things like add a form or permission slip. Maybe we need to gather some information from parents. We've seen this used in so many powerful ways: intent to return forms, impact aid forms, you know, residency verification forms, permission slips for field trips. And you'll see one of the things that we do is you can actually build a repository and then you know, hand them down. So maybe we have an impact aid program survey form, and we go ahead and attach that. And those are preset forms, or you can create one on the fly, obviously. We can do things like ask for items, request volunteers, even request payments. You know, maybe we, you know, we have a yearbook payment here, and we want to go ahead and say it's $25. You know, that's probably from the 90s. I'm sure the price is much more now, but you get the idea there. So I'm going to go and move back, and I'm going to actually, I built a post for today's purposes. So if I've scheduled a draft, I can go find it here. And I'm going to find that Parents Night, you know, post that I brought. Okay, Parents Night on December 17th. This is one that I've already set up in advance, and I click on that. And I'm going to show you a couple things. One of them that's most important is this will automatically translate into the different languages you support in your school district for you. So you'll see here, I have Lincoln Elementary. I put our little, you know, logo at the top. I've got some banners, Parents Night, attention parents. We've got our, you know, things. And you'll notice that please do not forget to sign the media consent form attached to this post. So I can actually, you know, reference things that I need them to sign. In this case, I put a video in the post as well, and some important links. Down at the bottom, I've used these post add-ons to do things like, you know, let parents add this to their personal calendar. They can send reminders a couple days before. Down below that, I reference that media release parental consent form. So I can go ahead and attach that to this as well. And a parent can e-sign that form right in the post. I've got my wish list for 200 water bottles. And then down below, we need some parent volunteers from 6 to 10 p.m. And we're going to need 8 of those. So all of my content is here. Now, by default, the system is going to translate all of these for me. And so if I only speak English, I can still get messages out in the other language. And the cool thing about it is if you're used to using some of the other tools out there, you build your nice looking, newsletter template for English. Well, then you want to build a Spanish message. You have to start over from scratch and build that message. Well, in our system, you'll see if I click on Spanish, it holds all of the formatting. Now, one of the things that I've done here is I do have that ability. It will do an auto translate for me, but I can always come in, and if I need to update this, maybe this should say un instead of that, then I can do that. If there's some grammar errors or things from the machine translation. The machine translation has gotten much, much better than it was even a few years ago. There's new technology there, but it's always good to kind of see these. Now, one of the other things I see districts not do that I want to recommend as a best practice when we're talking about inclusion and equity is you'll notice in my English version, I have a different flyer here and I have a different video. So many districts, if they leave it, to just machine translation, it'll have, now obviously we're not going to translate stagnant things, like it won't translate a video for you like that. That technology doesn't exist. It won't come in here and change this flyer. But what if you do at your school or district, make a flyer in English and Spanish, when you come to the Spanish tab, you can very easily just click here and click replace, and then put that Spanish version of the flyer there. So even your flyers are translated. And I think that's a nice touch for families. Certainly if we're in a rush, we're not going to be able to do that every time, but on important messages that are going home to the families, you want to make sure all of the content is translated to Spanish, maybe even a logo, that has Spanish, for the word elementary school there. So all of that is possible. And you'll see here that I put a different video in that Spanish thing. So that's something I want you just to think about as you're creating your messages. Am I, taking all of our different parent subgroups and making sure that everybody is getting the messages in the language that are comfortable to them? So that's, that's here, and you'll see that we've got, the information. So I'm going to go ahead now and post this message. So I can hit post, and when I hit post now, it'll let me know who's getting it instantly. And then we have an option called digest, where parents can say, just give me one message at the end of the day, and everything's in one place. So I'm going to hit post now. And now every parent in this school received this as a text message, email, and app notification. So they're going to get it multiple different languages, multiple different modalities, and be able to engage with that. Now, once a message has been sent out, parents can do things like or appreciate this post. Or a really important one here is, I can come in and sign this form. So I'm going to sign it for my child, Dane. And you'll see it automatically populates the student ID and grade level for me. I don't have to put those fields in because we know them. And then I can type in here, Principal Lincoln, and I can approve this message. And now I've e-signed that permission slip, and we can see the e-signature there. Now down at the bottom, we do have a comment section. Some districts, you do have the ability to disable this, but many districts do leave it on. And the great thing about this is we can hear from everybody's perspectives. We can gather information on this event and feedback from families. But one big difference is we do have the ability to set parent responses to private. So one of the things that happens if you just let Facebook and Twitter be your only means of parent feedback is that everybody sees each other's responses, and oftentimes there's really ugly arguments that happen for a simple parents' night post. So in this one, if I say, what time should I be there? Somebody else isn't going to see that message. That's another parent. So only the message authors and any admin that are tied to post are going to see that. So it's a great way to gather information from your families, but not have it be an open, environment where people are arguing with each other. So you do have that option. You can also obviously set these to public as well, but in private mode, that means the parents won't see each other's responses. So it's a pretty powerful tool there. If I go back to my home screen, you'll see here that I have that post now is here, the Lincoln Elementary Parents Night. I can watch my videos here and right from the post. So just like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, I don't have to go to a separate video and play it right in the post there. And I've got my important links and my messages down there. So as you can imagine, that's an incredibly more modern way to communicate with your families. You can gather information, but also we're driving that inclusion and equity and communication by making sure that we have the same content in Spanish that we have in English, and it all looks good and feels good to those parents as well. So that's the concept of our post, and that's our most commonly used message type, and one that many districts use daily to get out information to the parents. Underneath that, we're going to go look at our direct messages. Direct messages are that conversation piece. So if I'm a teacher and I want to have a chat with a parent, or I'm a principal and I want to have a chat with a teacher, this is the place that we would do that. So I'm going to send a message to myself, but I'm going to pretend that I'm a Spanish speaking parent receiving this message. So I'm going to come in and say, you know, I need to talk to Bill. So I'm going to go in and type Bill's name in. Oh yeah, this is the Bill I need. And I'm going to say, hi, Bill, how are you? All right, so let me go ahead really quickly and pull up my ParentSquare app, and I'm going to share my screen here. Just give me one moment to launch this. I see lots of questions coming up in the chat and the Q&A section too, so that's great. So, okay, now I'm in my mobile app. By the way, this is a tool that I use called Reflector, and it's a very powerful tool for you know, being able to share your information there. So now you'll see I've gone to my direct messages and I'm going to send this message. Hi, Bill, how are you? But Bill is a Spanish speaker. So if I go here and hit send on this, you'll see right away, instead of saying, hi, Bill, how are you? It says, hola, Bill, ¿cómo estás? So I'm going to click on that message. And one of the things that you're going to see as I'm in here, because this was translated by machine translation, there's always the ability to go back and see the original message here. So if I click here, it will show me the original English version of the message. So if there was a translation, challenge, you could see the original raw message there. But I know just enough Spanish that's correct, and I'm going to go ahead and write back muy bien. Gracias. I'm sure you're all laughing at my accent there, but I wanted to make it authentic. So we're going to go ahead and hit send here, and you'll see when I do that, if I go back to my original version over here, it says very well, thank you. So I just had a two-way communication in two different languages. I would offer that this is one of the most powerful things that we have as a company that we provide that, you know, breaks down language barriers and helps close that equity gap. So you'll see here that if I click and say the message was auto-translated, I can always see that original version of the message too. So I'm having that conversation there. You'll notice if I scroll up, I can put pictures and files in these messages as well. So, you know, we can share information. But one of the most important things is if today that communication is going on in a tool like Remind or Class Dojo in your district, there is no oversight. So I don't believe it's as safe as it is in our tool, but also it's not as easy for people to get that information if they need it. If I'm a principal and I'm sitting here and a parent's in my office, well, then I need to be able to pull up their chat log here and say, all right, show me all the messages. Bill's saying that he's never heard from a single teacher in our school and he doesn't know why his child's failing. Well, I can come in here and say view private messages. And now I have all of the chat logs between every different teacher. So if there were 6 different teachers associated with this parent and this student, then you would see all 6 teachers' messages here in one place. So as a principal, you can imagine how powerful that is to be able to get to the bottom of these things and you have log of all their messages there. So that's the concept of our direct messaging. It's very, very powerful, and especially having that translation engine in between. I think it's one of the coolest things that we offer. One of the things that I did want to note when we were talking about our forms here. So you saw before I completed a media consent form here. Well, our forms will also automatically translate. However, as a best practice, I would offer that, you know, in a pinch, if you're just doing a simple form there, you know, then go ahead and you can rely on machine translation. However, you do have the ability to go in and actually edit and view that translation as well, and you can make edits. So if it's an important thing like a residency verification form, we always want to put the eyes of a native speaker on it before we send it out, so that we make sure that all the fields line up, because with forms it can be a little tricky, you know. So but it does translate here. So our forms are going to help drive that equity as well. A lot of districts are sending home their forms typically in just, you know, the languages that are required to send in, that 15% or above. But in our system, you can send them to any families that speak different languages. So that's all supported here. All right, one other feature that I did want to talk about here is one that we call appointment signups. And I love this feature. So this is one that if I click on it here, used to be that we built this for actually parent-teacher conferences, and it's a great way for parents to feel comfortable to sign up for a time. But what we've seen is, you know, in the past couple of years, it's being used even school-wide. So I'll give an example of, we are having COVID vaccines. We're offering them to our parents at the school on December 18th, Saturday. So we come in here and we're going to offer start times of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Today, if we just post this as a post and say, hey, parents, vaccines on the 18th at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., we might have all of our parents show up at 8 a.m. We don't want that. We don't want a big line around the corner. So we're going to say we're going to do 15-minute appointments with 15-minute breaks in between. And I'm going to go in here next and I'm going to title this vaccination time slots. And maybe we have 10 stations at the school that we're going to offer these vaccines through. So we're going to offer 10 slots. If I come down here, I'm going to delete these times here and maybe this time here and offer this. So now we've got our time slots that parents can sign up for. And I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And it's going to create a sample post for me, just like the post before that you saw. So maybe we're offering just for our 6th graders today and just the parents right now. And we're going to say vaccination time slots, signups, we'll call it. And then down below here, you've got a sample post that says, please sign up below, but you can also add anything you wanted before. Just like before, I could put a design block here. I could put a video in here, from the CDC on vaccine, what to expect with the vaccine and that. And down below here, we have our different times that parents can sign up for. So once 10 parents sign up for this 8 a.m. slot, it's going to lock down and it's going to close and nobody else can sign up for it. Maybe we want to say at 9 o'clock, we can only offer 8 slots because we lost a couple volunteers there. We can make those tweaks there. Now, another really cool use case is in this same post, I can add a permission or a vaccine waiver form. So by the 17th, if you're going to get a vaccine from the school, you've got to come in here and sign the COVID vaccine consent form here. So my experience, unlike the older auto dialers where, and the harder you make this for parents, the more you're not going to close that equity gap. If I'm sending them an auto dial or, an auto email, and it's got a link to, SurveyMonkey to fill out a form, and it's got a link to Calendly to sign up for times, I'm creating barriers to families that they're going to maybe have trouble, doing this. In our example, we've got all of our information in one place. It's automatically translated to the family's home language. We have a form that's been translated in the parent's home language, and then we have a sign up slot that they can sign up for times for. So when I hit save, that parent gets everything in one place. And if I'm a parent who text message is the best way for me to get those messages, I'm going to get it as a text message. So it's going to be we're going to reach parents where they are. So, all right, just a couple more things here. And I know we're almost up on time. A couple things that I do want to offer is we talked about reporting too. So if I'm a principal or I'm a teacher and I've sent these messages out, I want to know who saw them and who didn't. And that's going to help me with my approach to communicating to my families as well. So to do that, anytime I've sent out a post, I can click on this little eyeball icon here for 18 notified. And you're going to see detailed reports of exactly who's seen it and who hasn't. You'll have the students' names, the username. You'll have a tab here that shows if they viewed it in any modality, and you can filter out, just show me the yeses, just show me the nos, and so on, as well as you'll have each different modality and whether it was delivered or not. Did it text? Is it sending as a digest later that night? Was it delivered? Was it open? Did they view it in the app? So all of that data is going to be at your fingertips. And again, all of this is going to help drive inclusion when you're able to look and see which of your families are getting the messages. All right, and then the last 2 things that I promised were talking about some tips and tricks that we've seen work really well for districts. One of them is, and I thought this was such a cool example, the FACES coordinator, I was meeting with them at Anaheim Union High School District, one of our clients here in Southern California, and they were talking about, well, we love digital, we send emails, text messages, that's great, but we have families that are very technology adverse, and how do we, let them know what's going on? So you'll see here, if I click on a post, and let me just take this one that we did here, I have the option here to come and print it. So what they do actually is in their front office at the school, they print out any important posts, and they can click print here, and you'll see that all of the information is there. Obviously, you can't play a video on the print, but you can see the videos there. And then they can even see the content here that was in the media release form. So you could print that out and hand it out. They can do sign up. So maybe right on that board there, they want to type in, write their name, and then you can enter on behalf of. So I thought that was a really cool use case where they were, saying, hey, we recognize that not all of our families are going to be comfortable with technology, and we want to make sure that all families are aware of these events. So we're going to print them out, and we gave you that print button to make that easy to do. Another use case, and this came from Oakland Unified when we were working with them. So Oakland was using our tool to get information on intent to return. And what I mean by that is they were saying who's comfortable coming back to school, either in a hybrid format or not at all, and they wanted forms out. Well, their goal with this form was to actually hear from every parent, which I thought was totally admirable. They were not leaving out the parents that maybe have a tougher time with technology or maybe are scared because of language barriers. So what they did is they actually, they sent out the form and they got about 30,000 of their families responded, but they still had 7,000 that did not respond. And so what they did is a calling campaign. Well, before this, we did not have the ability to fill out on behalf of. So what we did is we created for them, because we realized this was really important to get all their families, to have a voice in this, that we came in and let me go in and view my forms report here. So I'm going to go and click on forms report. So we created a feature by which those families that had not responded, somebody that called that family could fill out on behalf of that family. So let's say I was calling and I got in touch with this parent here, and I'm going to fill out their form. So I clicked on fill out form, and then I have to say I do have permission to fill out on behalf of. And in this case, it was just just the parent signature on the form that I'm working on here. But in Oakland's case, it had actual questions. So they would ask the parents those questions over the phone, and then they would fill out on behalf of. So that was a feature that I thought, where we recognize that not everybody's going to be able to do a post or want to do a post and respond right to that. So I thought that was a very powerful example of how we helped districts to kind of close that gap and realize that everybody's not the same experience there. And I think that's really the point of this is, and as Anu said so eloquently, is that everybody has a different experience, and we need to be able to put things through the eyes of that experience. And that's going to help us be better at closing these equity gaps and doing more at including all of our families in school communication. So I hope you found this valuable. Even if you're not a ParentSquare customer, I hope that even some of the tips and tricks we talked about, you find you can take back to your school district and hopefully implement. So, and again, please do share with us, reach out to us if you have any questions. I'm going to turn it back over to Paula. I know she had some, and I think Paula, you had a couple more slides here. So I'll go ahead and turn it back to you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you very much, everybody.
You can leave it in present mode, but we have some Q&A time now. Bill, thank you.
Yeah,
we had some great questions coming through, and I wanted to raise a couple to you. So Laura had asked, she missed the first part, but how do you overcome the barrier of parents downloading the app? I thought you could just touch a little bit on this opt-in, opt-out, touch in a little bit about how do you,
yeah, absolutely.
How hard is it for parents up in the front?
Yeah, that's a great question, Laura. And I have quite a bit of experience with different districts that I've seen do this well, and then some that have struggled with it. And not to say it's always challenging. That's a big challenge. How do you get people to download the app? So first and foremost, before I even go into some tips for that, one of the things to note is that every single piece of communication that I showed you here with ParentSquare, I can't believe I just said that. With ParentSquare, every single piece of information can be engaged with through email or text message as well. So, and in some cases, even phone calls. We do auto dials and phone calls for that. So the parents are not required to download the app to do anything that I showed you today. They could just get an email and click on the link and log in on their phone's browser and do that, or be on their desktop and they can click on an email and say fill out form, and it will ask them to log in, but then they'll once they're in, they'll be able to fill out that form. They can just do it in the browser. So we do not require the app. The app is built as a great experience if you do use it, but we fully anticipated that some parents are never going to download the app. So everything in the tool can be done without the mobile app. Everything that I showed you today and everything in the system. That's the first thing. One of the other things is we do have some resources. So if I go to admin here and make sure that's still there. If I go down and you'll see, I go to dashboard history, and we also have this in our help pages as well. It'll tell you 18% of your families have downloaded the app. If you're in the next newsletter, make sure to highlight the benefits of downloading the app to increase engagement with parents. Here are some posters that you can print and put up around the school. So you'll see that we even do that, and then there'll be posters that you can do, and you'll see as always we have some translated as well for you. So that would be another thing that I would offer is to do that. The other thing is many districts will host like parent nights, and as the parents come in, they will they will actually have like a little stand, like a ParentSquare stand. I saw this Whittier Union High School District did this beautifully, where at their parents' night, they actually had a ParentSquare stand, and you could go up to it, and there'd be 4 or 5 students there, and a couple admin, and they would help you with downloading those. So just driving adoption when people are on site as well. So that the first and foremost, I guess if I was to recap there, is that you do not have to have the app to do all the communication you saw here today. Second is there are resources here like posters that you can print out and put around your schools. We always recommend when you are sending home newsletters or information from the school, put a little blurb in there about the app with a link to it, which you can very easily to do. And then finally, when you do have on-site opportunities to interact with your parents, you want to make an effort to have somewhere they can come and learn how to use ParentSquare, because when the more parents get engaged in this tool, you will see just exponential outcomes from that, because it does touch so many different users.
Good. Thank you, Bill. Very thorough answer. And we had a lot of questions on language, and I thought it was worth talking about when you set up a post or like an emergency message and you set your languages, you still, if there isn't a set translation, maybe somebody speaks Vietnamese and you haven't set that. Do you want to talk a little bit about the 2 levels? Like that still would be translated if there was a parent who spoke Vietnamese, even if you hadn't set up a post language there. I thought that.
Perfect. So I'll show a quick example here. And one of the things that, that a lot of the other systems do is, a lot of districts right now will communicate in like their top 2 languages. If maybe Spanish is the only language that's over 15%, or more, but you might have 8% Vietnamese parents, and you don't have a translator on site, but you still, that's a large part of your parent population that you want to make sure is getting the messages. So one of the things you'll see is if I, field trip, and I say, hi parents, how are you? All right, so I'm creating a post here. I've got the subject field trip, and that you'll see that if I go to edit translations here on the post, now it's going to automatically translate these for me. Let's say I only speak English, and I need to get this post out. I'm a teacher to my class, and I'm sending it to my classroom. Maybe I don't speak Spanish, and I don't have a Spanish resource, so I would just rely on the machine translation there, and you'll see here. But let's say I am somebody that speaks Spanish as well. I come into edit translations, and you'll see there'll be tabs across the top. Now, you as a school, when you implement, you let us know. You might have 40 different languages in your school, but you're only, but your families that speak Mandarin, they actually speak English as well. And so you're going to not support that language. So you decide, we're going to tell you what languages are in your data, and then you let us know what tabs you want translations for. So in this case,
Bill, so if, say there's someone who actually has a preference of Tagalog and you haven't got that there, they'll get the English version, but will it be machine translated as well?
So yes, if the school has decided to support Tagalog, meaning that they use that,
it has to be showing there. It has to be. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, it will need to be showing
for posts. It will need to be showing there. Okay.
Yeah.
But direct messaging is all languages.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So the schools decides if they want to support a language or not, or pull one out. But by default, it's going to go to whatever languages are represented in the data. It would have to be a district saying, actually omit that language. We don't want to translate to that language, because the parents are comfortable with English, like if our Arabic speaking parents. So, but you'll notice that as I scroll through this, it translates to the different languages. However, I always have the ability, let's say, we're sending to my school and 40% of our parents speak Spanish, and I have, 4 people in the front office that speak Spanish. Before I send this message out as a principal, I can always come in here and say, oh, this should be, that. I know that's not right, but you get the idea. You can go in and make those translations. Now, maybe we don't have somebody to translate into Portuguese for us. Well, then we would just let the machine translation handle that. But anybody that we do have live translation for, we might want to have them spot check it before we send an important district message out. I always think native translation is by far the best that you can hope for. But in cases where you don't have it, we don't want to leave those families out. And machine translation has come along enough that it will do a good job. And we use state-of-the-art machine translation services.
Great. Cool. We have a couple minutes left. Normally I would have a nice comment, but we only have a couple minutes left, Bill. So you can handle it. There's two questions we haven't answered yet in the Q&A. One is, does ParentSquare have a public facing website option? And the answer is no. She said, or do we use Final Site, School Webmasters?
Yeah,
Do you have
so
any comments on like how, like with website, how we play with those?
yeah, absolutely. So James, great question. We do not currently offer front-facing school website. I know where that question comes from because the other big communication tools in education, Blackboard Connect and School Messenger, they actually through acquisition added on some like I was at Blackboard, and so they bought Teleparent, so I'm very familiar with the model. Now, what I will say is that they don't really; those systems are still built on different backends, so it's very much like having ParentSquare as your communication tool and having a third-party website system. And we do have good relationships with Final Site. So we do have kind of a loose agreement there between those two companies, and we do work with them very well. The other thing to say is that any of our posts can be sent via RSS feed to a website as well. So if I create a post here, like my that ParentSite post that I did, you'll see that and I can show you this in the site really quickly. I can come down here, and if I've authenticated my school's website, you'll see that I can share it directly to my school's website. And as long as your school's website provider has, excuse me, RSS capability, then it does work. So we can work with anybody in that. And then I apologize. What was the first question? I think I saw a question in there about emergency alerts as well.
That I haven't asked you, but yes, someone,
yeah.
Andrea had asked, how does emergency messaging work? So
yeah, so we do have that.
We have a couple of minutes. If you want.
Yeah, sure. I'll very quickly go over that. So Andrea, we do have an emergency alert system and phone calling auto dial system, just like a Blackboard Connect or School Messenger. I really love the way we built this emergency system because it's built for speed. So if I'm a principal, I'm out in the field, I can pull up my mobile app, click on the little red icon here. I can either create a new message from scratch, or I can have one pre-built, like a lockdown at Lincoln Elementary. Click that and then send urgent alert. With 2 clicks there, I just sent a phone call because I preset those messages, email, text message, and app notification, all in the parent's home language. So as a parent who speaks Spanish, I would pick that up and I would get my phone call in Spanish. So that we certainly do that. Or if you were doing more of a general message, we have that capability as well. So I didn't show that because it's kind of table stakes. If you're used to Blackboard Connect or School Messenger, we do that very similar to those systems.
All right, great. Thank you. Listen, we've filled up the hour. I thought we weren't, I didn't think we would, but we have, and I love all these questions. Really grateful that you've asked them. We have a couple minutes left. If anybody has any remaining questions, pop them in. We've got a few seconds. But let's see, do you want to go back to the slides? I wanted to let everybody know, we really appreciate you joining, and you're going to have a little survey. We'll ask you to rate this. I hope you got something valuable about it and you can give us feedback. Happy to explore any challenges when it comes to equity or communications in general with any of you. So we just feel free to ask us if you would like to continue a conversation. And in January, we are going to be having a panel leader discussion. I hope you'll join us. It won't be about ParentSquare so much. It will be a bunch of district leaders from a lot of our community talking about the future of communications. So more general, please join us for that if you can.
Yeah, Paul,
last thoughts, Bill.
Yeah, one last thought for me. Thank you, Paula, so much. One of the things that I think you could tell from the quote that I had from our founder, Anu, on this, is that as a company, equity and communication is very, very important to us. And we know that you're the experts on it. And so whether you're a ParentSquare customer or not, even if you're using other tools, if there are challenges that you're seeing in communicating with your families with, in equity and language barriers are a challenge, please let us know any thoughts that you have. You can email us, reach out to our sales team, whatever it is, give us that feedback because we really want to get this right. And so it's extremely important to us, right at the top of the company, all the way through leadership, partnership. And so we'd love to hear from you, even if you're not a customer, on ways that we can improve this for districts. So
Yeah.
our ears are wide open to say, so please do give us that feedback.
That's a great point. Love the critiques. And great. Laura, you want to know when our next workshop is? We'll let you know. And everyone, please look out for an email from us. We'll send you the recording and the slides too. And have a great rest of the month. And I wish everybody a happy winter break, really.
Yeah.
It's coming up quick. Thanks again, Bill.
Thanks all.
And
Take
we'll
care.
wrap it up now. Bye-bye.
All right.